For decades now, there's been a tension between business and IT internally within organizations. The business wants IT to provide tools and automation that makes their jobs easier. Technology needs business involvement to make those technology implementations successful. And more often than not, business is dissatisfied. They're not happy with the results that they're getting from IT. And this isn't because IT and technologists don't know what they're doing. It's not because the business necessarily has too high of expectations. It's because there's an inherent conflict between the two. There's different priorities between business users and IT and the technologists internally within an organization. Now, today's day and age with AI and low code, no code types of technology, this is changing a bit. It's giving business users the opportunity to take control of technology initiatives. So in today's episode of Transformation Ground Control, I want to talk about, is this a good thing? What does this mean? Is business ready to take control of IT? Is IT ready to give up control of IT? Can they coexist? How can they coexist? We're going to dive into this and a lot more here in episode 286 of Transformation Ground Control.
Welcome to Transformation Ground Control. Ground Control. The podcast that covers everything related to digital transformation. Whether you're embarking on an ERP implementation, supply chain transformation, or any other business or digital transformation, this podcast is for you.
3, 2, 1.
Ground control to Major Tom.
Hello, welcome to Transformation Ground Control episode number 286. I'm your host, Eric Kimberling. I've been in this industry for 30 years, helping clients throughout the world with their digital transformation journeys, along with my team and I at Third Stage Consulting. I'm also an expert witness in cases throughout the world involving litigation related to technology initiatives, ERP implementations, and other digital transformations. Excited for today's show. Well, first of all, if you're new to the show, welcome. Thanks for being here. I'm normally not filming in a random hotel room in Southeast Asia. Normally, I have my normal lighting and sound with me, but not today. But the show goes on. We've got to keep filming wherever we are, and that's what we're doing here today. This podcast is the tech agnostic view of the world of digital transformation. We cover strategy, people, process, technology, all kinds of good stuff. And normally the audio and video is much higher quality than what you're going to see today. But the content's going to be just as good here today, maybe even better, because I've got an exciting couple of guests here for you today. We're going to have Baan on the show later today. He's going to help me unpack this whole concept of diving into this concept of business versus IT and IT taking control or business taking control of projects from IT. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing or it doesn't necessarily need to be a contentious thing. It's just that now we have the opportunity for business to take more of a lead role and more ownership of their own IT initiatives. I'm going to be curious to hear from the audience, especially the technologists and the business users in the group here today in the audience. What do you think of this? If you're in the world of business, if you're on the business side of things, are you excited about this? Do you like the idea of being able to take control of your IT initiatives? Because now you've got AI, you've got low code, no code. We're going to talk about rapid application development, some of the other trends that have gotten us to where we are here today. But do you think this is a good thing? Are you ready to take control and ownership from IT? And if you're in IT, if you're a technologist, do you think the business is ready? And are you ready to potentially hand off more of that control, more of that ownership to the business? And do you think it's a good thing, for your organization overall and for you personally? I'd love to hear your feedback on this question here today, because I think it's a really interesting one. And I think there's pros and cons, just like any trend we see in the industry. And that's certainly something we're going to cover here today. So Jan and I are going to talk about this. And then later in the show, I'm going to play you a couple clips from another CEO. And by the way, if you don't know who Baan is, I should probably give you a quick overview before he introduces himself. He is the original founder of one of the pioneers of the ERP software industry. The software company was called Baan Software. It's since been acquired by Infor Software, and now he's the CEO of another tech company called Rappit. And he's going to talk a bit about his philosophy and why he started Rappit. But it's really interesting because he's almost killing the category, or trying to kill the category that he helped create 50 years ago. So he started Baan way back when, around the same time as SAP, shortly after SAP. And for a long time, it was SAP and Baan were kind of like the two main players in the ERP space. Then Baan sold to Infor, and then Oracle and Microsoft Dynamics have since emerged as large players in the space as well. So he's one of the original pioneers. Now he's got I don't want to call it an anti-ERP company or an anti-ERP software, but something very different than your traditional ERP technology. So I'm excited to have him on the show. He's a great thought leader in the space. Like I said, he helped architect and pioneer this industry as we know it. And then later in the show, I'll have the CEO of QAD, Sanjay, who's actually been on the show. He was actually on the show several weeks ago, a couple months ago. And I'm going to play you a couple clips from that interview. If you missed it, or even if you did see it, I'm going to hone in on a few minutes of that clip where he talks about some really interesting things relevant to what we're going to talk about with Jan today. And I think today's episode is particularly interesting because we're going to get two different perspectives from two different CEOs of two different tech companies, two different leaders in this industry. So I'm really excited for this. And as always, interested to hear your feedback along the way. So let's jump into it. I want to dive in here with a couple thoughts. So ever since the 1990s, there's been these boom and bust sorts of trends in a lot of different areas, but not just the ones I'm about to mention. But there's been a lot of trends and hype around ease of deployment of technology, because really that's the utopia we're all looking for. We're looking for that silver bullet state of utopia that's going to be easy to roll out. We hit the easy button and everything's unicorns and rainbows and we're all happy. We've got great technology and everyone's using the system and everyone's happy. We're more productive, more profitable, et cetera, et cetera. Well, we're still waiting for that day to come. We're still working towards it though. But if you go back to the 90s, you had a concept called rapid application development, RAD or RAD, back in the 1990s. Then you had citizen development. Then you had low code and no code. Now you've got AI-led development. And every time it's the same promise of giving end users control, giving business control of their technology, and giving them a certain amount of flexibility and ownership, being able to be a non-technologist and roll out these technologies, or so they say. Now, RAD is the prototyping driven methodology behind Power Builder, Visual Basic, and Oracle Forms. And it's sold on the idea that business users can build working applications without a development team. So we're going to get into this. I'm bringing this up as a setup for Jan when he comes on the show here, because we're going to dive into this and talk about how things are or maybe not different here today. Now, one thing I'll note is that as cool as this stuff all sounds, and as cool as it's going to sound when we talk about it with Jan, one thing I've been thinking about lately and really diving into in my thought leadership and videos and newsletter articles and basically everything I put out in the world lately, one of the big themes you'll see is I've been getting deep into this concept of shadow IT, because the more I study it, the more I think about it, the more I observe it with clients, the more I realize that shadow IT isn't really a problem. It's a symptom. And I've been really trying to understand what the root cause of that symptom is, and going deep into the sort of the organizational psychology and dysfunction, the organizational behavior that leads companies to shadow IT. And what I wonder about these trends we're going to talk about here today, especially when we talk about low code, no code, and AI driven development and business users creating their own apps, all I can think is, isn't that just going to lead us to more shadow IT in the future? I mean, you think about it now, look at your own organization and tell me how many different AI tools are your team using right now? Do you even know how many different AI tools they're using? Do you know what they're using it for? You may have people on your team that are creating their own little custom apps using Claude or some other AI tool. How many of those exist? How many of those do you not know about? And I see a world where AI is actually going to create shadow IT sprawl. It's going to create, sort of like the spreadsheets in the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and even now today in the 2020s. We're all trying to eradicate those spreadsheets, those pesky spreadsheets that just will not go away. And if you're like me, you curse Bill Gates every time you run into an error on a spreadsheet. I curse Bill Gates' name as though it's his fault somehow. I also do it with PowerPoint even more, because PowerPoint drives me crazy. So I'm glad to have AI here to help me with that. But that's neither here nor there. My point being, you think about how all the spreadsheets we're trying to eradicate, that's just going to get worse, because now I can create the most complex, robust spreadsheet in the world using AI. And so can you. And I can also create custom apps. And in fact, I have created custom apps, which is and should be terrifying to all of you, because I'm not a developer and you do not want me developing software for you, but I can do it. And that's pretty scary. And so can everyone else in your organization. So you look at shadow IT and the shadow IT sprawl, and I think that's the downside we've got to think about. That's the consequence or the risk we've got to think about. And it's not just me saying this too. What's really interesting is that SAP published a piece earlier this month on their website. They talk about agent sprawl, and they also cite a Lean IX survey in which 98% of companies have developed or plan to deploy AI agents, while fewer than half of any inventory any of them. And a Gartner projection that the average Fortune 500 enterprise will run more than 150,000 agents by 2028, with only 13% of organizations believing they have the right governance in place. I mean, those numbers are just staggering to me. Thinking about a Fortune 500 company as big as they are, they might have tens of thousands of employees, but now you're going to have 150,000 agents by 2028. That's just insane to me. So there you go. There's your shadow IT right there. 150,000 agents doing who knows what. And also, by the way, where's your data going? Who's providing the governance behind this? This is a big mess waiting to happen. And by the way, this is just a side note here. One of our partner companies has a really cool tool that they've recently launched that we're actually going to have them on our podcast here in a few weeks to talk about this tool in a bit more detail. But it's a tool that's designed just for this, to manage AI, to where you have more visibility and tighter controls and parameters around how AI is used in your organization. It also protects your data and protects your spend, and it also just ensures you have visibility into it. So there are companies like this one called Bravado Group, which I'll have Jeff and Dan from this company on the show here. It's a company we work very closely with on initiatives like that. But there are solutions in the marketplace like this, but I still think this is a big problem that we all need to be aware of. And I think the problem's already gaining steam, and we're still trying to figure out what in the hell AI can do for us and how we're going to use it. Meanwhile, our end users are off creating their own stuff, using their own AI stuff, which is, again, back to the whole point of this episode. Do we want business taking control of IT? How much governance should be in place? What kind of guardrails and parameters should be in place for them? So really interesting stuff that I'll be curious to talk to Jan about. Now, a couple of the things I want to point out here, just looking at my notes here. So I also want to talk about how in the old model, let's look at the old days, back in the old days, back when I was your age, back in the 90s when I was starting out, back in the day, a COO or plant leader described what the business needed. A business analyst translated it, then an architect designed it, developers built it, and then IT tested and deployed it. And then a year or two later, the business finally saw it was created, and then by then the requirement had changed. So, it's sort of like a moving target. We're setting in stone what we think we need IT to do at that moment in time. And in the meantime, the business changes and it's already outdated. Hence, we have technical debt, and it's an endless cycle. Now, AI is compressing that cycle, which is good. So now we don't have to wait necessarily 1 or 2 or 3 years to get business value. We've got a tighter speed to value timeline. Business teams can now model workflows and analyze legacy screens and generate specs and prototype new capabilities in hours or days versus weeks or months or years. So that creates a real opportunity for business ownership, but it also creates a real danger. So if you have AI generated code and ungoverned microservices and citizen developed apps, that all can become shadow IT at a massive scale unless architecture, security, and accountability and governance all stay intact. And again, back to my point about our guests from Bravado Group that'll be on here in a few weeks. We've got to have tools in place to allow us that governance and that control over what's taking place. So I'm going to dive into all this with Jan, and stay with me when I bring him on, because he is a very, very extremely smart person, and he talks very fast. You think I talk fast? He talks about twice as fast as I do, and he's got a lot to say, and he packs in a lot of knowledge. So you might want to slow things down. You'll make sure you're paying attention here when I bring him on. Make sure you're fully focused, you're dialed in, you've got your captions on, whatever you need to fully absorb this stuff. You might have to watch it a couple times. I honestly, if I'm being candid, whenever I interview him, I do have to go back and watch the video because I miss so much, especially when I'm interviewing him. I'm not always absorbing as much as if I were a true audience member. So it's going to be a great conversation. I really look forward to it. And another great thing about Jan is he is going to be a guest at our Digital Stratosphere event coming up in September. And if you don't know about it, it's September 9th through 11th in Denver, Colorado. You can attend in person, which we hope you do. But if you can't, we also have virtual passes available too. So last year we had people from all over the world join, and they were interacting with the live crowd in Denver. It was really cool. A couple things I'll note. Not only is Jan going to be a presenter and speaker at this conference, but this is the first time announcing it here publicly, but I'm also going to have a special surprise for those that attend at Stratosphere. In addition to great content and great keynote sessions for myself and Jan and others, I'm also going to be launching, and we're going to be previewing for people at the event. We're going to give them a preview of the first episode of a YouTube TV series that we're developing about digital transformation. So it's an edutainment sort of thing. It's not a training video. It's an actual sort of a sitcom, fictitious story of a company going through a digital transformation. And we're filming. It's in production, just starting now as we speak. And it'll be released in October, but we're going to preview a rough cut of the first episode of that show at Stratosphere in September. So if that's not enough to get you to want to join, I don't know what else to tell you. Actually, there's one more thing I'll tell you. In addition to previewing the show, there are some scenes that require happy hour type settings, and we have some of the cast of the show are actually going to be at Stratosphere, and we're actually filming some of the scenes from later episodes later in the season. We're filming at Stratosphere. So if you'd like to be part of or see the production of the show, we're actually going to be doing it in between sessions and during networking sessions and whatnot at Stratosphere. So kind of a cool thing. I don't know that any other conference would give you the opportunity to be on the ground floor, getting a first look at something that's never been done before, which is a TV show on YouTube, a YouTube series for the digital transformation and enterprise tech space. So think of Office Space or The Office meets our industry. That's essentially what it is. So that's Digital Stratosphere. Jan Baan will be there, and Jan Baan is going to be our guest here in just a moment. So be sure to stick around. And by the way, go to stratosphere2026.com. Use the discount code EARLYBIRD to get 20% off your pass. And I hope to see you there in September. It's a lot of fun. And this year, I think will be the best one, not only because of the guests we have, but some of the exciting surprises that I just mentioned as well. So we're going to bring Jan Baan on the show here in just a moment. I'm excited for it. Stick around. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll be right back with more Transformation Ground Control.
I'm Greg Benton. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer with Third Stage Consulting. And if you are embarking on your digital transformation journey or in the middle of that journey in 2026, you're going to want to see our digital transformation report. This latest edition really dives into a lot of the key trends that we're seeing in the marketplace and the ecosystem right now. It also highlights a number of the things that are happening with AI being an important component and integral part of the ERP systems that are leading the way right now. Also, the shift toward composable and best-of-breed cloud solutions is really accelerating the decline of monolithic ERP replacement. The opportunity to download the report is found at thirdstage-consulting.com. And you'll also find other tools that will help you in the initiatives and the business planning that you're doing for 2026. Don't leave phase zero without it. Reach out today.
I want to encourage you to read our Guide to Organizational Change Management. It's a free report or a free guide that we published. It's one that I actually wrote that talks about best practices and lessons learned as it relates to change management. So as you know, on this podcast, we cover a lot of stuff related to the human sides of change, organizational change management, including training, communications, org design, all kinds of stuff as it relates to change management. So if you're trying to learn more about change management or you're looking for more direction and ideas on how to get started on your change management strategy and your overall journey, be sure to check out this guide. You can read it by scanning the QR code on the screen in front of you or in the links below for this particular podcast episode. You can find a link to take you to the page that will allow you to register to go ahead and download that and read it for free. So be sure to check it out. It's the Guide to Organizational Change Management, written by yours truly. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you think, and hope you enjoy the rest of this episode. Hello, welcome back to Transformation Ground Control, episode number 286. My name is Eric Kimberling. I'm your host. I'm the CEO of Third Stage Consulting. I've been in this industry for 30 years, helping clients with their digital transformations throughout the world. And I'm excited for our next guest. He's been on this show a few times. He's a guest speaker, or a keynote speaker, I should say, at our Digital Stratosphere conference coming up in September, which I hope to see you there, September 9th through 11th. Go to Stratosphere 2026 to learn more about it. But Jan Baan is quite the legend in our industry. He founded a company back in the 70s called Baan Software, which for a while was the leading ERP system. They were around at the same time and side by side with SAP back starting in the 70s. And they, between the two companies, really forged this path or this industry as we know it today. And since selling Baan to Infor, he's also created other companies, including the company he's a CEO of now, a tech company called Rappit Software. So I'm really excited to have Jan on the show. He's always a wealth of information. He talks very fast. You'll probably get more in this 1 hour of interview with him, or however long we talk to him. You'll probably get more out of this 1 hour conversation than you would get in a full day of talking to an expert or most experts. So really excited to have him on the show. I learn a ton every time. So with all that being said, Jan, thank you for being here today.
Thank you again for inviting me. I'm Jan Baan. I'm 80 years old, still feeling young, but all 50 years in business, starting with ERP. But the name was maybe wrong. We call it Enterprise Resource Planning, but the name was wrong. In reality, it became not more than Entity Resource Planning. It became never Enterprise. But by the way, I was leading with SAP in what we call transactional systems. And then after 20 years, I saw the internet coming, and ERP has no browser. And that means I came to the conclusion we have to go further. ERP is a transactional system of records. And then we say we have to go enterprise. And then we started more with BPM and with SOAR service-oriented architecture to take all those silos like ERP, PLM, MES, shop floor control, CRM, PL, and all those elements, and unite them together from the silos into an end-to-end enterprise data framework to metadata. But it was the infancy of the internet. And then it was in the beginning of the century, I burned my ships because I came to the conclusion ERP is obsolete. It was maybe too early. But we adopted ERP and brought it to enterprise. But it was the beginning point of the enterprise. We say, if you see more in the when you start in, and if you see ERP is maybe 20% of the data stream is in the beginning. And then with the internet, we move more to processes, but it was the infancy of the internet. But now with big data, machine learning, and later with AI, we're moving more to the downstream, to the job to be done, and what we call to the workflow. And there you see the shadow ERP, what Eric mentioned, all where we see these terrible spreadsheets, PDFs, etc. is so dangerous to see therein. And problem today is these three areas are not integrated. On this moment, ERP is isolated, the processes are isolated. And if you go from ERP to process, then you go from a transaction to case management. And it's a totally new way of thinking. And you have to unite them. But now we go from case management to what we see, the APIs, and to even what I call semantic databases. And later on, I explain more there. But that's what I do. And still full involved. I'm now founding, how many years already, the Rappit company, mid-size, but we have 350 employees, a lot in India. And the core people are still my people in Baan. We have many people who are 35 years, 44 years with us. And it means we have, what we see, the tissues between all the three layers. And that is our unique points. I've been there on 2 other places, burned my ships 2 times, but adopted the knowledge. And the attitude is still the same. That's so far maybe my introduction.
Right. Well, we're great to have you here today. I appreciate you joining. And I oftentimes refer to you as the godfather, the pioneer of the ERP category. And what's interesting about what you're doing now is, I always find that you're a good living case study of the concept of creative destruction.
Yeah.
To use, I think it's Clayton Christensen. They developed that concept, and you in some ways are. I don't want to say you're intentionally destroying the category you helped create, but
more or less you do. But what you do, you bring it in a new wave. And that means it's what we say, burning my ships is the crucial part, because what I'm doing is hard to do it by a startup. We have a big company in the Netherlands, ASML, the biggest from Europe. And ASML never could be a startup. They could do what we call skunk works. That means you come out of a home of something. Now, I never could start what I'm doing now with startups. I adopted everything from system of records, burned it, but take the attitude and move a step further to the processes, and then again, quit again, and go to the knowledge worker. And you see the integration in the beginning was an enterprise service bus, and now you see the APIs. And what we do is the crucial part, you follow the consumerization, and ERP is not following that. And that means an aeroplane is still in the cockpit, not so modern, because they are not adopting the new Apple stuff, etc. Regulations allow them not. And the car is much more innovative in this stuff they're in. And that's what we should do. And on the end is the job to be done. And the EBITDA is not ERP. But the ERP is bolts and nuts. Per kilo is not so much. But when you sell the car, it's the latest moment in the downstream, and that's where you're making EBITDA. And on this moment, the workflow is terrible, kind of adopt the ERP part is not united. And on this moment, more than 98% is still SQL database. It's stupid because we're 50 years in big data. And with SQL databases, you are static. And then we move to metadata, and now we are in semantic databases. And that's the core part. You have a semantic database with what you see there, you have BigQuery, Elasticsearch, and that is the only foundation to do AI. AI, and later on we'll come back, but AI on the transactional system is extremely dangerous. Extremely.
Why
It's like a Ferrari engine on a motorbike, on an old bike. And because what you deal there, you should decouple, you deal there with deterministic data. And AI is probabilistic. It's approximately. And if you are in the ERP world, and if you send 100 containers to the wrong ocean, then you're bankrupt. And an agent can do it immediately for you. And an agent can destroy it. And people are not aware of it. And if you bring your ERP to your vendor, you're the most crazy part. And that's what the vendor like. You're locked in. But now the vendor is spending trillions and hundreds of billions. And the only way to convince and continue there is with the old software, is to lock you, and then now doing your AI. But then the AI belongs to the vendor. And why is it that the market cap of the vendor is 10 or 20 times the revenue, and you're, as the customer from us, is only 1 time the revenue? Yeah. The market cap should go to the customer. We have to go to what I call customer intimacy. And on this moment, it's only vendor lock-in. And vendors do not understand customers. There you need a system integrator. The vendor has no role in your boardroom, do not understand it. The vendor has no clue what you're doing. The vendor brings what they call best practice, but when SAP is best practice, it's what they say, hey, I'm milking you. At your service, how can I milk you? Right. And the way they milk you is they send you best practice, but best practice is only what they're thinking, and they do not understand the market. Best practice is the opposite of operational excellence. Right. Best practice has nothing to do with operational excellence. And by the way, if you decouple it, why are you not different than your competitor? That means the latest moment, the bespoke part only should be your own and should be never in your vendor's solution, because this is where you use new technology, and you do it in old technology. You're right. Locked in technology was 30 years old. And that is what you should do in AI. In AI, you should do your bespoke.
One thing that Jan mentions here that's really important is that embedding AI inside your ERP does not automatically make your ERP intelligent. That's a really important point, because that runs counter to what the ERP vendors are selling. They're selling you this concept that, we've got all your data in our system, so therefore we're the ones to provide AI to you. And the AI that we develop will make your ERP intelligent. And that's not necessarily the case. And I really like how Jan used the analogy of putting a Ferrari engine on an old bicycle. The engine's powerful. The bicycle was never designed to handle it. And so adding more power doesn't modernize the architecture. It can make the failure faster and more destructive. And by the way, along the way, it's also locking you in even more, because now you've doubled down even more on one single vendor that has complete control over your entire architecture, your entire workflows, your data, your cost structure going forward is escalated, and you lose a lot of leverage too. Switching costs are higher, your costs are going to escalate, and they've got all the pricing leverage going forward. So that's a whole nother conversation for another time. But this is just one important point that he makes about how you're not necessarily modernizing architecture by adding more power. It's just potentially making the failure faster and more destructive. So the thing that executives need to understand is that ERP transactions are deterministic. It determines things like 1 + 1 must equal 2. So an inventory management, a financial posting, a shipment or production order has to be exact every time. So you send 100 containers to the wrong destination and the model was approximately right, or the model was pretty close. isn't an acceptable explanation. So that's the value of ERP. We hear a lot about AI slop and AI hallucinations. The good news with ERP is if it works right and your data is accurate, it's not going to hallucinate and it's not going to guess or get things wrong. So generative AI is probabilistic. ERP transactions are deterministic, but generative AI is probabilistic. It predicts, it estimates, it provides the most likely answer, and that's incredibly useful for ideation, pattern recognition, recommendation, scenario analysis, and helping people process enormous amounts of information. But it does not make it appropriate for unrestricted execution inside safety critical or financially deterministic transactions. So you think about a highly regulated environment or regulatory reporting or health data related to patients in a healthcare system. All those things are things that you don't have leeway for generative AI or some of the variability that you would expect from generative AI. So the smart architecture is to separate. It's separations to keep your deterministic system of record trusted and controlled, and then you put AI around it to interpret, to recommend, and orchestrate. So in other words, you don't want AI doing both. You don't want AI to do the normal AI stuff plus try to do what ERP systems do. And at the same time, your ERP system is not an AI tool. So you don't want ERP trying to be AI. And I think that's the problem with the whole ERP model. And no offense to Jan, obviously, because he helped create this category. But the ERP model and the concept of ERP is flawed, in my opinion, here in the 2020s, because more than ever, it's unrealistic for ERP to be everything to everyone. And this is just another example of how ERP is trying to be everything to everyone, including doing things that it wasn't really built to do. So great point that Jan brings up. We've got a lot more to cover. I've got a lot more questions for him. The audience, I'm sure, will have questions as we go here. So we're going to dive into it in more detail, but stick around. We'll be right back with more Transformation Ground Control. If you're about to embark on the jungle of digital transformation, check out my new book, Welcome to the Jungle. It's a book that just came out in late 2025. It's my second book, and it's a book that focuses on digital transformation failure case studies and talks about the lessons and takeaways from that. It's 300 pages packed of all the lessons and things that I've learned from having been an expert witness in lawsuits related to digital transformations, and also with our team helping clients recover some of their failed projects. I've included as many lessons I could possibly fit into one book here. You can read this book. You can order it anywhere in the world in hard copy format, which is this format here. You can get it in paperback. You can also get it electronically as well. Scan the QR code right here or go to the links below for your copy. Hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you think.
Are you looking for ways to promote your product or service to enterprise technology decision makers and influencers throughout the world, like the ones who listen to this podcast? Major Tom Productions creates media, events, and influencer marketing for B2B technology providers. Our productions are exciting, educational, disruptive, and effective. Most importantly, they create results. Our content is unlike any other in this industry, engaging, influential, and trusted by technology buyers and influencers throughout the world. Each month, our productions reach hundreds of thousands of targeted buyers and decision makers who trust and engage with our honest and tech-agnostic content. With long-tail viral results and engagement with our content, Major Tom Productions provides a way to reach your target market and create awareness, calls to action, and a connection with potential customers. So collaborate with us today. Learn how we can feature your product or service on podcasts such as Transformation Ground Control, Journey to S/4HANA, and Journey to Dynamics 365. We can also feature your brand on our YouTube channel called Digital Transformation with Eric Kimberling, which boasts over 100,000 subscribers and over 2 million video views per year. You can also participate in our in-person events, including our Digital Stratosphere Conference. Contact us today to learn more. We can tailor a marketing campaign that works for you. We look forward to helping more people learn more about and become engaged with your brand.
Hello, welcome back to Transformation Ground Control, episode number 286. I'm your host, Eric Kimberling, 30-year veteran of this space, also CEO of Third Stage Consulting, and excited to have you here today, and also excited with our conversation we're having here with Baan, who's the CEO of Rappit software. He's also the founder of Baan software, which is one of the original pioneers of ERP software, since sold to Infor, and now he runs Rappit, and he's got a lot of strong opinions about where the industry is headed. And what I love about talking to Jan, which I hope you agree from hearing him so far, is he's well grounded in the history of this industry, but he's also very futuristic. He's also very forward looking and looking at where the market is headed. And he understands and learns from the past, but he's not tethered to it, which I really appreciate about him. And it's rare to see that, especially in today's day and age of purist, myopic thinking. I would say with a lot of technologists who are stuck in one mode or stuck drinking one flavor of Kool-Aid for their entire careers. Jan is the exact opposite of that. So I'm really excited to continue the conversation here. This idea that the business is finally taking the driver's seat back from IT. Now, we've heard this before. You know, you've been in this industry longer than I have. I've been in it for 30 years. You've been even longer. We've heard this promise before with RAD, rapid application development in the 90s. Then we had citizen development. Then we had low code. What's different this time? Is this really going to happen this time? Is business really going to take the seat back?
It was pseudo. Low code is pseudo because low code is only dealing with citizen. And that is not where the business is. The business is the whole data flow. And low code was only on the margin to do some things what anywhere too hard for SAP or Oracle to do it. And it was pseudo, it was only helping for the spreadsheet world, helping the business in the workflow. And the workflow was not united. And if you call workflow as isolated business, then you're nonsense. Business, your whole end-to-end data stream. You have two elements. You have the decoupled data stream, and what you need is late binding. That means we have the latency of the business, where you should do everything integrated, but on the other hand, we have real time. And real time cannot be united on the database in the latency. That should be decoupled. And when I have my mobile, everything now can be done on the latest moment. I can have my IoT on the latest moment here in the business. Now, when I say workflow never was integrated with also there with IoT. And now on this moment, business without IT can do, and we have a revolutionary idea there, we call it the blueprint. And the blueprint is done with also our AI-driven tools, where immediately we can adopt every screen, the old system, we call it reverse engineering. There we adopt the legacy part and bring it in a unique database. It's phase zero, call it. In phase zero, but normally when you have something in phase zero, you can write it on your blackboard, but only for 1 minute is active. But the blueprint is continuously stored in a semantic database. And all the participants in business are stored and isolated, and even I can trace it back 5 years from now and see who made the decision. We could have our meeting herein. We can have every document therein. Everything today now, if you look to Notebook LM and see a little what you can adopt therein, that is adopted in our blueprint. And the first time now in our blueprint, we can collaborate, and that means business people. Normally, a COO can talk with smart people over business, and then a year later, only IT can execute a year later what can happen, and then a year later is implemented. Now, in the same afternoon, business will see it and optimize it, and can every day optimize it. That means we can continuous improvement for the first time now, driven by AI, what never was said ever before, every day. And if you improve every day 1%, it seems very little, it's 300% a year. That means what you do, you no longer do backbench. What you do now, no replacement, etc. It's continuous improvement, and step by step you bring from the upstream. We call it sunset, and you go step by step, replace it to workflow. But now one problem: if you look to ERP, it's difficult. Silicon Valley does not understand ERP. They have no clue what a master bucket scheduling means. That is so complicated. You see master bucket scheduling, all the planning, all the logistics stuff. Even many ERP companies do not. Maybe only 4 or 5. The most ones do nice what they do, but they do not understand this type of heavy stuff. Now, but then you have a core element in ERP. We call it customer or decouple point. There was a unique point in Baan, who still now belong to Infor. And what is the customer or decouple point? You have everything before. That means if you do a make to stock, then you do generic. But assemble to order is specific. It's downstream on the customer or the decouple point. And Baan was the only one who could handle assemble to order, make to stock, etc. Now I bring this customer or decoupling point as a central point. And it means everything downstream, south of the customer or decouple point, can be done with microservices, even project control. Why are you doing so stupid? If you see project control is difficult with the scan chart, and you see more Kanban oriented. But why should you do it in ERP with all this stock, etc.? You make it too complicated. Because when it is customer specific, no one is interested, then only what is the cost. You can do it 100 times cheaper. Now that means most people do not understand this. These are the fundamentals in the architecture element. And if you go now to AI and Silicon Valley does not understand it, that's a problem. And what they do then, they go in the deterministic part, the most deterministic part of this customer or the decouple point is the generic part. And they go with AI. It is so dangerous. AI, there should not be internet access there to AI.
Right.
And what we do, we say AI should never be more than a butler and working for the knowledge worker. Right. And even vibe coding is so dangerous because no one can understand the code. You do it again. We use only AI in this, what we call ideation. Right. If you see in phase 0, you have the ideation. And there you build the whole enterprise from business standpoint. Again and again, then you couple it and then you execute it. And executing, we do it in a manufacturing way with a bill of material, the SBOM. And the SBOM cares from all the open source elements, etc. But we here it's dangerous to use vibe coding. That's only for citizen development. We use Java, plain Java. We did already for many years. And it is a trustful environment, totally open, and it's always the same. And it's done in a safe way. And with Google, there what we can do in this, if you go to these APIs there, you can extremely have a tremendous speed for tens of thousands of users in what you see for the database with this BigQuery, etc.
Right. Now, I want to come back to that point in just a moment. But before I do, though, I just want to jump to the audience here real quick. We've got a couple comments here. We have Hemchandra on LinkedIn says, great to see you both together. Thank you for that nice comment, Hemchandra. And then Alina on LinkedIn says, hello, we need more smart people like you guys. So a couple great comments here. Thank you both for joining here today. I want to get to a point you made, though, about you were talking about AI a moment ago. And we're talking about some of the IT cycles, the tech cycles and trends that have happened in the years past. But in the past, each of these earlier waves that have happened, these earlier trends have left behind shadow IT and ungoverned applications. Now, what do you think about AI? Does AI-led development remove that risk, or does it just make the sprawl and the shadow IT faster and harder?
Terrible. AI is supporting shadow IT because you do it only for the citizens and you have a spreadsheet. And then again, out of the chaos, you even make it long, but it should be dynamic and it is statical. And AI have no role therein. AI is only the application and the human can do it more and bring it in. AI is driving the human, and the human should deal in this area in a semantic way. And a spreadsheet is most dangerous program what you can expect. It's terrible. And Microsoft is taking even the spreadsheet as a gateway for a knowledge worker where you have all the rules, but you need no spreadsheet. Now I can use a spreadsheet to adopt it, but then it is the end. The end of the spreadsheet is only PDF. And that is a terrible stuff what you're doing. The same what we see on this moment, but we can adopt some things. And like AI can adopt on this moment, even we like the internet. That all the traffic in the internet, we like to adopt them even, but that are agentic microservices, and those services, they are all dynamic, and that means at least they cannot deal with their SQL. At least they should, and we adopt SQL there in the semantic database with the BigQuery and with this Elasticsearch. Now, and this is, and you can Dockerize, you can make it open, and there then you fine tune it for the job to be done. Because on the end, it's only the person when the rubber meets the road, and this person should be facilitated with the applications, with the AI, And then we see the guys, I have a chair, and I go to 6 screens the whole day. 80% of my time, when I'm a very professional person, I have to connect 6 screens together and unite them. Now that's what AI is doing. The integration. That means the knowledge worker can be 4 or 5 times more productive because they have no longer caring to all this individual data streams from different equipments. The data should come immediately in a data stream, and then AI have a function, and then we can even control the AI from the deterministic part. If I deal with the backend, 1 and 1 is always 2. If I deal with a prospect, and for 90% maybe the order will come, I can produce already, and then AI can help me. Even the coding is important. We need the deterministic way, but AI is only efficient in the probabilistic part. But if you go to a web page and maybe you sell some things, now AI maybe can help you to be a style guide, and that you sell maybe 2 times more, 3 times more, informing you. But on the end, when it comes back, this data should be protected in the deterministic way. Not so many people have a clue over there. And this totally holy, it should be totally decoupled, these 2 areas.
Right. Yeah, makes totally sense. Now, in the ideation phase, who's actually doing the work? Is this the business analyst with better tools, a plant manager with...
You, could be you. That means we see the most idea is already that also the system integrator already is the consultants in the ideation phase with Propel with reverse engineering. We take all the old stuff already and have the data model. Now, on this moment, the source code by SAP and Oracle is hidden in the compiler. But for me, it's not hidden. I can see 20,000 screens. Now, my brains cannot handle them, but AI can do it in a few minutes. And out of these 20,000 screens, you see exactly who is dealing with a small piece in a screen in the data. And from there, we are rebuilding in a modern way the data model, but on a user-based level. Even better than, but you see this 100, if you see by SAP, this 100,000 plus database tables, it's terrible. The most terrible stuff you have there. And even they do not know what it means. And even it is not even metadata in many cases. Now, metadata is even not enough. It must be semantic, and from this phase 0 is done. The best idea is a business consultant. It could be good that the business consultant is uniting by an architect, and maybe by a smart data guy who is doing the understanding the AI. These 3 people, but the core is on the moment the business. In my opinion, a CIO and a CDO should report to the COO, right. and even not to the CFO.
Yeah.
The COO and maybe the data expert is maybe the assistant of the CEO.
Right.
If you are smart, understanding the value of the data, you stay above IT, and even maybe you stay before business. And that could be a good element that those smart people who can deal with these algorithms and understand this one could be extremely efficient, but only if they understand the business.
So Jan has a really good point here, and that is the business owns the why and the what, and IT owns the how and the guardrails. I think this is a really good point that I want to unpack here for a second. So the business should own the problem being solved. They should own the customer and operational outcome. They should own the workflow and the business rules, and they should own the priorities, the trade-offs, and the definition of value. Now, IT, on the other hand, they are the ones that should own architecture. I've said before that, business and leadership should have a say in architecture, not so much from the perspective of designing the architecture, but designing or defining the strategy that should lead to an architecture that is most appropriate for that strategy. So even though IT should own the architecture, I would add a caveat that I think business leadership needs to put the parameters of the direction of where to go with architecture, because there's so many architectural decisions that IT needs to make that has to support the business needs and the direction of the company. And every company's got different strategies and priorities and directions and goals they're trying to accomplish. And that can and should drive the architecture rather than IT defining the architecture in a vacuum. So IT should own the architecture, but with that caveat, IT should also own security and data integrity. They should also own DevOps, deployment, integration, scalability, and maintainability. And they should also own the standards that keep hundreds of local solutions from being total chaos. And this is why, a lot of times IT professionals err on the side of a single ERP system or a common tool set, which is totally understandable because they're trying to simplify things, they're trying to clean things up, and the business is going to constantly put pressure on the IT architecture to do the opposite. I mean, it's not that the business wants chaos or they want technical sprawl, but by putting their business demands on technology, that's inevitably where you're pushing the IT group. And of course, the IT group's pulling back, saying, hey, hold on, let's bring this all, centralized. Let's put out a common tool set rather than you all going out and building your own stuff. So it's a natural tension. I think it's actually a healthy tension. But the key here is I think you've got to have strong leadership. You've got to have executives. You've got to have, and when I say executives, I don't mean just the CIO. I mean your CFO, your COO, your CEO, everyone in the organization at the senior level should be providing those guardrails for what and how IT and business interact. And in my opinion, executive leadership and steering committees are oftentimes the tiebreaker. They're the ones that are the mediators, the referees between business and IT. Because again, I don't say this disrespectfully to business or IT professionals. It's just a normal organizational behavior. You're going to have different priorities and functions. You're there for different purposes, just like your CFO and your head of sales are probably going to, or your better example, your head of sales and your operations person. Those two people are constantly in conflict, not because they're right or wrong or they're bad people or they don't like each other. It's just they have different priorities and it creates tension. So it's organizational tension that's natural. But the question is, how do you resolve that tension and get to the point where the tension doesn't break or create irrational conflict, I guess you could say. So the mistake is to allow either side to dominate outside its competence. So you don't want IT dictating business processes just because the software is easier to maintain that way, because then the company loses differentiation. But when the business builds whatever it wants without architecture or governance, the company creates shadow IT and operational risk, and that's a big problem. So Jan's vision isn't that IT disappears. It isn't that business just takes over IT altogether. It's that the business no longer waits a year to see whether IT understood the requirement. Business leaders collaborate continuously with architects and data experts while AI compresses, analyzes, and prototypes. So think of it this way. Business owns the destination. IT makes sure the vehicle is safe, scalable, and capable of getting there. So good lesson there from Jan, and he has some great points as always there. And I'm sure he has a lot more great points he's going to share with us here, but we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Transformation Ground Control.
I met her in a club down in Old Soho, where you drink champagne and it tastes like Coca-Cola. C-O-L-A.
One of the best ways to ensure digital transformation success is to learn from the lessons and failures of others that have been through similar engagements. And that's exactly what we'll do at the Digital Stratosphere Conference coming up in September 9 through 11 in Denver, Colorado. Now at this event, we're going to have a number of different speakers, different thought leaders in the industry. We'll have software vendors there. I'll be there. I'm going to be presenting my new book and giving a presentation about this book. I'll be signing the book as well. And we have a number of other speakers, a lot of well-known speakers that'll be there to share their lessons. Networking is amazing. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of good education that comes out of it. It's packed full of stuff. And register now. I've included links below. It's September 9th through 11th. I hope to see you there. It's in Denver, Colorado. You can buy a virtual pass or you can be there in person. So be sure to check it out. Hope to see you there.
The last thing you want to have happen is for your digital transformation to end up in court. I've been doing this for 20 years and I have seen everything. My name is Marcus Harris. I'm a software and technology attorney focusing my practice on drafting and negotiating software-related contracts and litigating software disputes across the country. Feel free to reach out to us at taftlaw.com. We'd love to talk to you about the litigation process and what you can expect.
Hello, welcome back to Transformation Ground Control, episode number 286. My name is Eric Kimberling, the CEO of Third Stage Consulting. You can find new episodes of the show every Wednesday by going to transformationgroundcontrol.com. This show is produced by Major Tom Productions and sponsored by Third Stage Consulting. Thanks for being here today. And it's also sponsored by our other sponsors who have ads running in this podcast. So during the promo breaks, be sure to check those out. Support those that support this show and are part of this tech agnostic and digital transformation community. So thanks to everyone for being here. We're with Jan Baan talking about this whole concept of business taking ownership, or at the very least collaborating more tightly with IT during digital transformation initiatives.
I mean, AI is around you to assist you in phase 0, where what we can, our brains cannot understand, and that make us 5 times more productive, understanding the business and investigating what to do, and AI can in our chaos of thinking, make structure. It's amazing for me what I'm doing 5 times more with AI. But what I'm doing now, I have all my data maybe from 50 years. I stored in my notebook, LM, etc. But now I can do so much what gives me a better structure, what my brains normally could not do this. Don't let me not limit it, AI, but even be aware it's so dangerous on this moment. It's in the wrong hands. And it's manipulated by the oligarchs. You have only 5 people in the world who control the whole world. And these oligarchs are dangerous. They have only the benefit to become richer and richer and richer. They only like to lay off people. But why should you lay off people? If AI helping you to be 4 times more productive and make a double EBITDA, AI cannot smile. AI cannot cry. AI cannot do customer intimacy. Why should you not and the tokens are becoming so expensive, we are squeezed. Now, that means also we should be LLM. I'm LLM independent. I can use Chinese models. I can everyone. Now, and do it. That is also, you have to understand how to use these LLM models. And why should we not use our creative people who are maybe cheaper than agent over time? It is because we underestimate the cost of tokens.
Right.
Yeah, maybe you've heard it. What was it with this car guy? And then in 3 months or so, they were already out of budget. And now we are squeezed because, and realize AI brings no value for the business yet. All the billions are only played to the oligarchs internally. It's only the tool makers are making their money, but the business are making no money from AI yet.
Right.
But they can, in my opinion, they can triple the EBITDA. But yet it is only in the beginning, and even if you do it in ERP, you are not where the money is, the EBITDA. You are only in the beginning where the complication is.
Right. And that tokenization and you look at all the money that AI companies are spending on infrastructure build out and whatnot. At some point, they're going to have to turn a profit. And to turn a profit,
exactly. Now, and we see it's only 2% is effective, but the 2% brings a lot already. That's the opposite. That means if I increase the productivity of the knowledge worker 4 times, that's what we at least can do. If you have not to do the data, if you inform, but only when it is customer related, when it is EBITDA related. Right. There is where AI has the most money. And when and optimizing the infrastructure with the integration layer, the data structure, the semantic layer, this is where AI helping the knowledge worker to understand the whole data stream.
Right. Yeah, that makes total sense. I'd love to hear from the audience, your thoughts here, because this can be a controversial topic for some to say that IT should take a back seat and business should take control of enterprise applications, and not everyone agrees with that. So I'd love to hear from the IT professionals in the group here, whether you're a CIO or an IT leader or a consultant. What do you think of this whole hypothesis that business should take the wheel, business should take ownership of these projects? I've been in debates around this before, and I'm curious to hear if you've heard this too. But I've heard some technologists say, look, you should never let the business run or take control of IT because they don't understand. They don't understand architecture. They don't understand what's best for them, that sort of thing.
That was at the beginning that people say you should never drive a car.
Right.
It was not consumerized.
Yeah, good point.
And it's always everything should be servicing to the business, what you're doing. It was only too complicated. That means IT was important to be a new tool maker. Like in the past with a car or with an airplane today, I'm not able to fly the airplane. But when it is simplified, when it is even what we see therein, there's no longer need for it. It could be self-driving. We see it by self-driving cars. I mean, they say I'm a chauffeur for my whole life. It's maybe then you have a problem.
Right. Yeah, good point. Here's a question from Third Stage on YouTube. What other ways have you found to control AI? You were talking about AI. We've talked a bit about AI sprawl and AI getting out of control in some ways, but what are some ways you found to control that?
crucial. AI should always be controlled. I mean, AI helped me tremendous, but even when I'm coming, I'm now having my personal mentor. I call him my person. I did with Gemini, and I was able now to fine-tune him personally to me, help me tremendous. But we are always in debate, and he's always too positive for me. But he can help me, and I'm coming back. Only suppose you are a top professor and you have, say, 25 assistant professors or smart people. They can help you tremendous, but on the end, you should adopt it. That means AI can never be more than a butler. And everything what AI brings should be to the customer, to an element, a controllable element, always adopted by a human. But the human is growing so fast now. And when I'm seeing how fast I'm growing, you even mentioned, Erik, how more efficient you are now than a year ago. That means you see that AI every day helps us, gives us more power. And we see that we're becoming more unique because AI is not creative. AI on this moment is only expecting the next word. And it's only doing what others have done because they have stolen, the Microsoft have stolen, etc., the whole internet. And that's the reason that the prediction of AI is only stolen data where they can predict so much. But the prediction is only adopted from something before. It's not creative. No, and don't overestimate AI therein. At the other end, don't underestimate how efficient AI. Suppose if you go with a horse, only with a horse, or still with a smart car, etc. Don't underestimate how efficient AI could be as my butler to increase myself. Right. But I'm responsible. I should control it.
Right. Yeah. Very, very interesting. I'm curious to hear what the audience thinks around the concept of business controlling technology too. I know we just talked about controlling AI, but if we talk about IT in general, who should be controlling enterprise applications? I'd love to hear from the audience here. So drop in the chat what your thoughts are here. But when just playing devil's advocate here, Jan, when a business user generates an enterprise application, or when a business organization is in charge of enterprise applications, who then owns the governance, the data integrity, and the security, and who owns the accountability when something?
That's all different. Now, on the one hand, you see the DevOps is done in the even IT part, but that's isolated. If you're in the factory, there's even the business people in the factory. The factory worker on the shop floor owns it. It's different people who owns it. Because you have, in my opinion, it's the cybersecurity element. It's very crucial. Is the DevOps. Now we do with all if you do vibe coding, you have no DevOps. And therefore, and what you do therein with AI is only citizen. But on this moment, there is no enterprise. But now we dealing AI can adopt me to do the whole enterprise, and that means on the end, it's the CEO is always the business, but it's delegated. Like even who is closing the door on the end of the day is not the CEO, but he's responsible. I mean, there are different jobs on everything. See it as a factory. If you build a car, one is doing the seats, one is doing the wheels, one is doing etc. One is doing the infrastructure. Now, what we have now is an ecosystem to the supply chain. On this moment, there is no supply chain because there's no semantic database. But now we're moving more in the supply chain, and we're going also what we call in collaboration, collaborating the same elements. Now, we did it a little by multi-tenant, only on a job, like what Salesforce did. But Salesforce is very simple. It's only CRM. Nothing more, and it's only simple collaboration with multi-tenant. But you the one and bring it in. Now, more crucial for me is we should be sovereign. And I don't not like that even Bush or and even the FCC, your president on this moment can say I should look to your data and what's going on. It's extremely dangerous for the Americans, and we go totally to sovereign. Now what we have is 5 layers. Jason Hang mentioned it. We have the layer of electricity. Now, who cares for that? Electricity cannot see what you're doing. Second, you have the layer of the chips. They can see not. Only NVIDIA knows more. They have more. Then you have the layer of the distribution. It's the internet with Microsoft, Google, and Amazon. And then we have the layer of AI. Now, NVIDIA controls all. But that's not enough. We have now the layer of what we are in the application. That's the business layer. And that is a stack owner. Now we are there, but maybe the only one anywhere who is there. The stack owner, why was it that in Baan's time, Oracle, but also SAP and ourselves, our market cap was so high, we were the owners of the stack. And the application, the AI, agentic AI builders should be the owners of the stack. And if you own the stack, should be 7. Now, why, and if you're thinking architectural, why should we have the data of humans? In America, now, in the Netherlands, we have only 80 million people. In maybe 2 hours, I can build a certificate of birth from the whole country. And no one should know the name. I should know your name only 1 second before the rubber meets the road. And we put all those stuff in and store it and have all this compliance stuff. It's nonsense. You have entity modeling. If you take only the entity out and do it on-prem, maybe, in architecture, that no one knows it. Now then, very easy, like electricity, you can make it sovereign. And then you do the rest a little encrypting, then Google cannot see what I'm doing. Although Google offers already a lot of sovereign tools.
Right.
But take care, the sovereignty is one of the most crucial parts. In my opinion, in 1 or 2 days, you should switch from Amazon to Google, that you can negotiate. Now, then we see the drama of Microsoft with Windows, a tremendous drama. Stealing, controlling everything. They are so old. They are so old. They are not owners like Google. They own no AI.
Right.
They own no customers, but they own only the PC. And then they are a disaster in this PC where they every 2 seconds they control it. And in Japan they came to it and they saw the terrible element of Windows and say now AI should take over, that you need no longer a menu because then AI can do it, then we own you forever. But take care that you never deal with a vendor for AI. Right. Even Salesforce like to invest to keep you, when Salesforce is in the infancy of the internet, it's not really professional.
Right.
I was there 20 years ago. That is even where we see low-code is in the infancy of the, it's not even on big data. Now, that means we were already with Vertex for many years, with machine learning. We did already what you see, all these semantic elements therein. It's a step by step, but now the enrichment of the tools by far is it by my, now Google, if you see how strong they are, because they own everything therein. And then it's already by Google is already paid from the what they have you in from the search, but the only luxury from Google is all paid. All the others have to make their money.
Right.
And that gives Google, in my opinion, a very advanced position therein. But even you cannot trust them. You dance with the devil, say people. That means you should take care that you are sovereign. And that you are agnostic, you should Dockerize your stuff and take care of everything. But it's simple. There's an architectural element. There's a manufacturing element. We have therefore our SBOM, our software bill of material, where you decouple all the components. And what we built is we call it ever young, evergreen. That means every month I can totally refresh it. If you have low code, you start and 5 years later you're still in the same version.
Right.
Software is ever young because you can permanently, and if you go from Java 11 to 15 or so, it's maybe should be 1 day to decouple it and bring it in.
Right.
And what we did for many years, we did it in Baan's time already in the software factory. Be agnostic. We are a manufacturing company. It's simple. It's not rocket science. That is not. It's normal. The manufacturing companies know how you build a car. I mean, in a car, every second the car is built therein. And if you see, your Americans are not so good in car builders, because and even the Chinese know. We in Europe know how to do make to order, make to stuff. I like not these Tesla cars where everything is the same. Right. And you cannot do it. You cannot do it. You guys are only mass because the way in America that you do all mass. I believe in Europe, if you have the level 5 in the stack and focus on customer specific, this is where you can win. And this is where you do it in your own, not the vendor is doing that. This is where you as a company can be smarter if you can do assemble to order, make the stock.
Right.
And still make the stock, but still even assemble to order. And make it specific. And then we build a product and we say goodbye. But if you do a scanner in a hospital, it's for 50 years, it's solving your lives. And no one counted. It's the beginning. Normally we say bye-bye to my car is going, but this car will drive many years. And all those sensors can give you a subscription, a service, the serviceization.
Right.
In the beginning, everything becomes, and at the end, everything becomes a service.
Right. Yeah, very interesting. Now, here's I asked the question to the audience of who should control IT. Should it be the true IT department? Should it be the business? And we got some comments on that. So Elena on LinkedIn says, who should control? It's whoever is smarter, don't you think? So I guess that's up for debate. Who in general is going to be smarter, the IT group or the business group?
Depends what you're doing. There's some elements, but what is part of control is the whole job. Some elements, like in the bill of material, but the core elements is the business. And on the part, the business was only related to the facilitating element of IT, and that's over. If I can make my blueprint without IT, and then it's generated in IT, it's deployed in IT, that means it's not saying IT is not important. Of course, if we do all this deployment cost, but IT should never dictate the business. IT does not understand the business.
Right. Yeah, very, very good point. And then this is from Craig on LinkedIn. Craig says the person who drives this needs the right knowledge and experience. My experience is that this sits with a specific person in the team rather than someone who has a specific job title. I would always use the person who has the vision, irrespective of their title. Yeah. On my experience, this may be the CEO, CFO, or CEO more often than the CIO.
Yeah,
so
but
a business owner here.
I agree with him, but they have two elements still. Now we are only looking to what exists and what is done years ago and what is deployed. And 80% of what we do in IT is maintenance. Turn the light on. But now we're coming in a new area to do new business, what we not understand today and what we can do tomorrow and implement it next week. And this is normally took us 3 years, but AI allows us now to oversee and do some things in 5 minutes, something in 2 hours, what we normally not could do in a year. And if business can adopt this one, then business can take the driver's seat in a new way of businesses. Now, then we have to learn what means it, the consequence. But that is, in my opinion, business. Business is innovative business. Business is not to do what we have found out 20 years ago. That's what we do. There's nothing changed in ERP. 90% is even turn the light on. There is there's no innovation.
Right. Yeah. No, it makes great sense. And then here's a comment from YouTube from Cheb Rubin on YouTube. He's actually commenting, giving me credit for something you said, Jan, but he's saying, what about your idea of using Odoo and AI for building major ERP SaaS cloud features specific to clients?
Odoo is nice, but Odoo is like low code and it's good in workflow. Odoo was the only one, the first one who could do the simplicity in it, but Odoo they have not done even the master scheduling, the complex elements therein. And I should say, upstream, the customer at the decouple point, let it stay where it is. There is no reason. Info is one of the best in my opinion. But if you see, if you say there, and if you see those guys, those processes are good enough for the next 3-4 years, and you make 10 times more money downstream than upstream if it is good. But instead of if you have 40, we did it by Solvay, by Vallejo. We had 40,000 SAP users, 40,000 users, and we built a project control with Kanban and oriented stuff, and we did it there in microservices. Decoupled that. That could be easy done in Odoo. Be south of the decouple point, when it is customer specific, when it is more workflow oriented. In the past, because the workflow is not strong enough with microservices to do this, and Odoo is one of the strongest. Who understand Google and understand how to build in an open source, how to build workflow elements where the customer themselves can do. It's very attractive. Therefore, you should unite. It's not monolithic. Do never monolithic. You can use maybe SAP or other stuff before the decouple point and Odoo downstream.
Right. Yeah. Great point.
And Odoo is then stronger because then low code is too simple. And Odoo is more or less the same, but have a manufacturing understanding from the related workflow process elements. And good with even understanding Google's technology, very good too, but not for the whole enterprise.
Right. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. It is compliment what they're doing.
Yeah.
But I like to give a compliment to Odoo.
Yeah.
But I've been there, and before they were born, we were there already. because Silicon Valley does not understand, again, even the manufacturing core stuff.
Yeah.
And that is the only way to do it. You need with old people who understand this, and they have to deal with youngsters to adopt, because there is so much in their mind. If you look in aerospace and defense, if you look what I did with Boeing, we have also 40,000 users in Boeing. But even if you see by Valeo, they deal with, again, 40,000 people who are running this MRP stuff. But they do too much. These 40,000 people, maybe 400 is enough. Because the output of ERP should only be an input in an API.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing more.
Yeah.
But now we force, and if you look to the user interface, it stinks. It stinks very much, the user interface. It's so complicated. It's no UX. It's terrible. And if you do on this stinking user interface, we do then AI. It's like a Ferrari engine on an old bicycle. Now, why do we say, that is the, you should understand where can you do it, architecture-wise.
Right. Now, here's a comment from Hemchandra on LinkedIn. I won't read the whole question. I'll read the relevant, or the most relevant part here. But one lesson from every ERP transformation I have led is that technology problems are usually governance problems in disguise. AI may democratize development, but it doesn't eliminate accountability. Is that something you've seen as far as more of us can do development now?
I should say, first who owns it is the enterprise. It's the boardroom. Now, normally the boardroom was isolated. And then it is to find out for what job, who is making the car, who is doing the chassis, who is doing anything. The same here, it does not mean what is IT, who cares? Because it is all united, and we have a job to be done. And this job to be done are changing. Some people from AI have a better understanding for algorithms, etc., who could help us in data, who could help in quality, in testing. But testing is done. We do everything is now automatic testing before already with the phase 0. Do it already because you can do it permanently. But take care if you then fall back on AI, and with vibe coding is so dangerous because every day you do it again is different. Mm-hmm. And then you need smart people to analyze this vibe coding. But if you do it only for spreadsheets, who cares?
Right.
But if you do it for the deterministic data in the core manufacturing, suppose again you make a mistake and you're shipping 500 containers in the wrong ocean. Now maybe you can all go home.
Right. So with all these trends you're talking about, when you look at AI, you're talking about business taking ownership or control of these projects from IT, and essentially you're talking about the democracy.
No, but I should say collaborative. It's
right.
When I in Baan say who owns it, the lowest level in the organization, better to ask for forgiveness than for patience. We call it the Baan culture. In India, everyone by me on the workflow make the decision. We say if you have problem with your boss, throw him out. You don't ask your boss. Better to ask for forgiveness.
Right.
If you understand the job, do it.
Right.
But try to learn, but management should look a little who is the best facilitator to me. Maybe we take now the CIO and we make them COO, because maybe it's easy for the COO to learn the business. And so long already involved in the deployment of all this complex IT could be a very good career.
Right.
Because I'm not saying we have too much thinking, but in the past the CIOs were too afraid because they were not fired by Oracle and SAP. And on average, and they were moving every 2 years. And most times CIOs were often, sorry to explain that, but more the chief procurement officer, and they came on the podium of Google or made by Oracle because they were buying for a couple of millions every year, and they call them the smart people because they had a bill and they procure, and they had so much power therein.
Right.
Now, but a smart guy, we are a team, and in a team, it's no longer the borders are moving. In the past, we had borders because you say, okay, now we have to execute. We don't understand it. No, okay, maybe it was another company. It was an IT department.
Right.
But now in the customization, you do it central. You do it in the business. You make a new workflow for 5 people in an afternoon.
Right.
But take care that all those microservices are united together. That's where people make the mistakes. Because if you do microservices, you have no clue from the whole data model, from the DevOps, and what means everything. That is what low code was destroying. Low code was overvalued.
Right. Now, what do you think will happen to the ERP category with AI? Do you think AI is going to destroy the ERP category? I know you're a big advocate of decoupling microservices and things. So tell us what the future of enterprise applications and enterprise technology looks like.
Normally ERP is over. What is ERP? Because if you look to ERP, it's not the foundation. The foundation is PLM. The foundation is the bill of material. The beginning of the bill of material is the design, the CAD/CAM. Now, and even that is not good integrated. AI can now unite them better together downstream, but we should have one element between the bill of material, totally. And if I know already from the design and the bill of material, then you have the predicted maintenance on the end. And if you can unite them together, a whole building, that is all elements of the total. If you go to enterprise, ERP, we call it ERP because most money was therein. And the ERP guys, no one has a good understanding from PLM. They like to do it. And what they did is monolithic. You see, Ariba has nothing to do with ERP. And even this, what they bought for my friends out of Israel, this other small people from SAP. These three are united, we have nothing to do with sort of different source code, no uniting. But the marketing power, they bring it together, and you're more in the pitfall, and you cannot come out. They killed you. We are killed by the monolithic vendors from vendor lock-in. Now, what we say, vendor lock-in is the most dangerous part. Take care that you're no longer vendor locked in and even do nothing in a vendor lock-in situation with AI. Now, and if you look what is on ERP in the future, and it should more composable. What is composable? But we are not. The money is not in ERP. The money is in the. We should more say the driver's seat is the workflow. There is where you make the money. Right. What is the kilo price in the beginning from ERP is 5% from when you sell the car on the end, when the rubber meets the road. Look to the EBITDA, and what we are doing, we call it EBITDA propelling. If you now buy an ERP is consuming EBITDA. And you know it, and you make all your money from all those disasters. 70% is a disaster. And we say next year, don't expect dividend because we do for a new SAP implementation. It's terrible if you look to it.
So here's something that every steering committee doing an ERP project should be thinking about, or at least keep in mind, and that is that ERP should propel EBITDA, not consume it. This is a really interesting point because actually just literally yesterday, I was in court testifying in an expert witness case. And one of the questions I got asked on the stand was a difficult one. They were asking about, they actually asked this exact question, which is really funny that Jan mentions it here today. It's very top of mind for me. But without getting into confidential details and to make a long story short, what happened in this case is that, or what is happening in this case is that the company implemented an ERP system. The ERP implementation was not successful. They tried to get out of their contract, and they had a dispute with the software vendor. In the meantime, their profits were declining pretty significantly. It was in a precipitous fall. They were having some economic problems. There was some internal turmoil for this company, and the question I got asked is, should just because their EBITDA was dropping, they had cash reserves, so why would they not? Why would they be trying to reduce their cost on an ERP implementation? And I made the comment that it was exactly what Jan said here, which is, you don't necessarily want to consume EBITDA, but you also don't want to tie up or use your cash reserves to implement a new ERP system. So really interesting point here. So most major ERP programs are framed as necessary costs. The company tells investors not to expect the same profitability because it's spending tens or hundreds of millions of dollars on a new system. And for several years, the transformation consumes management attention, capital, and operating margin. And the payoff is somewhere off in the future, maybe, if you're lucky. So Jan's challenge and what he's suggesting here is we need to reverse that model. ERP itself is mostly a system of record. It captures transactions and creates structure. Necessary, yes, but it isn't usually where the customer value or margin is created. The money's downstream, the workflow, where a product gets configured, produced, delivered, serviced, and improved for the customer. That's all downstream. So that means the investment case shouldn't be how cheaply can we replace the ERP. It should be how much faster can we deliver, how much capacity can we unlock, how much customer specific value can we create, and how much can AI and workflow automation improve margin. Those are some of the things we've got to keep in mind. Now, if your transformation only creates a newer system of record while disrupting the business and reducing EBITDA, you've modernized technology without improving the enterprise. And I hate to say it, but I think a lot of companies are going this route right now. You look at companies like Microsoft and SAP who have these sunsetted products where they're phasing out their legacy products. So a lot of their customers are going through these implementations saying, we have no choice, we have no business case. We're going to do it either way because we have to. And that's a scary thing to think about. I'm shocked that we're in this position in the world or in the marketplace where that's acceptable to spend millions or tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars on a system just because you have to, but it's not necessarily going to deliver any value, any real business value. I'm still waiting for that S/4HANA implementation to show just remarkable, unbelievable ROI. If you're lucky, I mean, the luckiest organizations we see are the ones that get out unscathed. They're relatively successful in the implementation, but yeah, they've modernized their system. They've got some cool tools. Maybe they're starting to dip into Joule or AI tools or whatever. That's great, but I've yet to see a business case, an actual realized business case that justifies the investment and the risk in S/4HANA or Microsoft D365. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, even if that's the case, but just go in, knowing that you are spending a lot of money. Make sure everyone's on the same page that you're just modernizing at this point. Maybe you're eliminating technical debt or whatever, but you're most certainly not. You're not necessarily going to get a huge ROI. Now, if you can, what Jan's suggesting here is there are ways around that to where you can be more profitable. And that's why I think some of the options he talks about is so compelling, because he's talking about not necessarily spending tens of millions on replacing your system of record, but instead investing in technologies that provide more business value. And there's a lot of them out there. The problem is when they're provided by your ERP vendors, they give you like a stage gate or a hoop you have to jump through to get there. To get our latest and greatest AI tools, that the stuff that will actually give you value, you need to replace your entire core ERP system. And that's a backwards way of looking at it. But, it works for the vendors. It's how they maximize their profitability. It's how they get you locked into long-term contracts. It's more revenue, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what we should be looking at. We should be looking for not just a successful ERP deployment, but something that delivers a more profitable enterprise. So I've got a lot more to cover. We're going to jump back into the conversation here in just a moment, but first we'll take a quick break. We'll be back with more Transformation Ground Control.
I'm Greg Benton. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer with Third Stage Consulting. And if you are embarking on your digital transformation journey or in the middle of that journey in 2026, you're going to want to see our digital transformation report. This latest edition really dives into a lot of the key trends that we're seeing in the marketplace and the ecosystem right now. It also highlights a number of the things that are happening with AI being an important component and integral part of the ERP systems that are leading the way right now. Also, the shift toward composable and best-of-breed cloud solutions is really accelerating the decline of monolithic ERP replacement. The opportunity to download the report is found at thirdstage-consulting.com. And you'll also find other tools that will help you in the initiatives and the business planning that you're doing for 2026. Don't leave phase zero without it. Reach out today.
I want to encourage you to read our Guide to Organizational Change Management. It's a free report or free guide that we published. It's one that I actually wrote that talks about best practices and lessons learned as it relates to change management. So as you know, on this podcast, we cover a lot of stuff related to the human sides of change, organizational change management, including training, communications, org design, all kinds of stuff as it relates to change management. So if you're trying to learn more about change management or you're looking for more direction and ideas on how to get started on your change management strategy and your overall journey, be sure to check out this guide. You can read it by scanning the QR code on the screen in front of you or in the links below for this particular podcast episode. You can find a link to take you to the page that will allow you to register to go ahead and download that and read it for free. So be sure to check it out. It's the Guide to Organizational Change Management, written by yours truly. Hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you think, and hope you enjoy the rest of this episode.
It should not be consuming EBITDA, it should be propelling EBITDA. And the propelling is, I call it, instead of ERP, call it the semantic data stream. The core is the data, and without data, you cannot do AI. And people have no clue today, and data is a chaos today. Now we build it, we adopt immediately the SQL data, we bring it immediately in the data lake, the same, end to end, and then the data ministry can continue, we can come back, can continue, but step by step, and in the data lake, you need 3 databases. You adopt the SQL, you do the BigQuery, and you need the Elasticsearch, where you have all this all together. If you do not have that together, you never can run an enterprise where you like to do. And 90% do not have it. That means it is so old-fashioned. My same old source code from 40 years is still there.
Right.
We did it with a famous Baan shell. And even Infor is using his Baan shell was already decoupled, but it is not cloud native. ERP was only, if you know a browser, it can do a little, and it looks like we are on the internet.
Right.
But how are you doing with 100,000 database tables and all this terrible stuff? And then you do all this M&A. Now, Larry Ellison was keen. He integrated a very smart part. Larry Ellison is doing a lot of M&A, and the total integration is he can offer you one bill. And he called it fusion. I call it confusion. But he called it fusion, and he will send you one bill. And that's the only integrated one. But if you look to GD Atlas and all the stuff, it's totally different.
Right.
And if you see even Navision, if you see what is it, this service, if you see also the cloud solution or cloud, they are and they're even they're conflicting with each other. They only can go to the low end, to the end. It is not a monolithic solution.
Right.
And on the end, it should be done, the customization should be done by the customer themselves, the business themselves. It is dangerous then maybe for the Accentures, etc. I believe in the future is in the boutique system integrators.
Why is
They
that?
will win. And they are in the boundaries, they are in the driver's seat, they are in the boardroom. If you have a smart boutique system integrator, they understand with the customer to do the architecture. If they have 25 people, which is good enough, and this partner organization with the cheap labor in India, they will have the problem.
Right. Now, when you look at the major ERP vendors, I know you mentioned some of your preferences with not your preferences, but your admiration of Infor and some of the others.
That is my whole product. I see Infor is still, that's only the Baan. I prefer the Baan product, Infor 11. Because there is they decouple with the Baan shell, they decouple the same element, and the foundation is there, a customer decouple point. It's maybe one of the only one where this foundation, that was the stuff what we built already, who's still there, who's still a unique element, because these are the fundamentals of manufacturing.
Right.
And there you can handle all kind of manufacturing in the decouple point therein. But the source code is obsolete, it's older, but it's maybe like others is good enough. That means and it could be everyone. If you have even GD Atlas, or if you have a good running system, don't replace it. Could even be on-prem. Why not? Why should you spend all the money therein and of course go to Rimini Street? I like what they're doing. They are better in support because they like the support. When you go to SP, they hate it because they make costs because you have already the money. They like it and they know how to support you.
Right.
Those more specific ones are very respected ones. I like them in the way they do it. They do it half for half the money.
Right.
And why should you go then to another version? Because it's not coming another CPU, etc.
So how do you think the big incumbents in this industry, whether it's SAP, Oracle, and Microsoft on the technology side, or if it's the big, you mentioned the boutique consultancies you think have an advantage, or the boutique SIs.
Yeah.
What about Accenture, Deloitte?
I'm afraid for every big. Everything who's big is now unite themselves. There are 5 companies in the world who good for, 40 trillion market cap. And all these poor customers, it's better than our manufacturing companies are making more money. It's better if you have 40,000 unicorns by manufacturing companies. We should make our customers strong. Right. And there are more, and some people say maybe the most dangerous part are the oligarchs who are protecting themselves. We should, and we have a voting right, and it should be customer intimacy. This is a world where everything is consumerized, and then you need no longer a big company. There is no reason that a big company have less to offer than the small one, because everything is consumerized. In the past, you need unique people and controlling and selling, but now it's open. You have open source, the open tools. Now, in some areas, you need an infrastructure. Now, take care that you're not locked in, and that you're fighting for a sovereign way. You cannot trust them, but for a while. But at the other end, there's always a certain dependency. But take care that everything should be agnostic. That in a few months or so, that you can go from one to another.
Right.
And that is only, it's not rocket science. It's only an architectural element. But we are all too lazy, because I'm not fired. In the Netherlands, they bought everything by Microsoft because you're never fired.
Right. Right.
And then there was a lawsuit, and the lawsuit was opposite, even with these terrible window solutions therein.
Right.
No, and then you do it because you're not fired.
Right. Right.
Now, I believe what you guys are doing is, it should start with participating in the SIs, focusing on phase 0. That is the crucial, and there is where this is groundwork.
Right.
And the knowledge is not so often available, even not in bigger companies. And that is the lack of control, that even the IT departments have no clue themselves for phase 0. Often. Now, that is shaming. They call themselves, because it means they can only do the maintenance.
Right.
And cannot follow the future. Now, let all be united, and that's why we are building this ideation. Is the core element, I see it, the blueprint, the dynamic blueprint. And it should be a dynamic element. And it should be a collaborative element that you can because there are a dozen of different entities where people in this department have no clue what the other department. There is the whole business in an enterprise, even in a company 500 people, cannot be in one brain. And that means you collaborate, and that is like you make this like a bill of material. It's not in the past we say we make one project, but we cannot do it. We say we cannot make one part of a car. No, the same as bill of material. You bring different entities, but the different entities have an architecture where you work together, and this should be phase 0. And if you have phase 0 good, you should do it again. And then I'm going also for evergreen refreshing. What you should, because coding, even with 5 coding has no longer value. We see it already now with 5 coding. But code has no value. It's only maintenance. And the code is only an execution element. And now the code was forever. We have still code for more than 40 years old in SAP. It's not new. That's the terrible stuff. Suppose that you have a car with components where 60% of the components of your new car is 40 years old. That is what we see. IT have the name of innovation, but it's very, very poor. It's very handicraft. Everything is handmade. Now, on the other hand, what we do, we generate Java, and 80% immediately, 90% immediately, but always the latest point, a human is there, but I cannot generate, the human can build this, decouple it. The perfect is the enemy of the good. I mean, there's always room for a human to do something, but then is it tested, is it good? And it takes maybe 5 months to do a small piece, but this piece is so valuable, it makes value complete. Always is the human. And Java programmers don't like low code. Why? Because they are working then in a factory, they like to be furnishing the stuff. The .NET people, the Java people like no .NET. .NET was not in the business. Java was the business language. And if you do, and these people understand, and if you're a smart Java programmer, they can do what AI not can do.
Right.
Yeah. AI has no clue to do this. I mean, use them, and that is where you have to build your team. But why should you do everything if it can be for 90% generated? And if you generate it, it's 10 times faster, it's deployed, everything is a manufacturing element. But on the dashboard, you can do something by hand. But under the hood, you should generate it.
Right. Yeah, it makes total sense.
That is, in my opinion, a manufacturing way of thinking, a manufacturing concept.
Right. Now you're going to be presenting at our Digital Stratosphere conference in Denver in September.
My honor, for the third time.
Yeah, I'm third time in a row, third time's a charm, and I'm excited.
But now I'm 80 years is now, but okay. But my honor to do it for you.
You're still making the trip from Netherlands to Denver to the US, so I appreciate that. And if you aren't already aware, the Stratosphere conference is September 9th through 11th. You can learn more about it right here. Just scan this QR code right here. You can see the agenda. You'll see that Jan Baan is on the agenda. You'll see a bunch of other speakers. You'll see all the topics we're going to cover. So I encourage you to scan that QR code to learn more about the event. And if you'd like to register, just use the discount code EARLYBIRD and you'll get 20% off. Although it's not so early anymore. It's only a few weeks away, but Early Bird will get you a discount. It's September 9th to 11th in Denver. If you can't be there in person, we also have virtual passes available. But if you don't mind, while people are scanning the QR code to learn more about this event, tell us a little bit. Can you give us a little bit of a preview of what it is you plan to talk about? What kind of stuff, in addition to what we've talked about here today, what can we expect out of your presentation at the Digital Stratosphere conference?
I will go deep to real, to present a little how I'm working with it and how the whole elements from this phase zero, bringing everything therein. What we now learn, especially for us, a revolution, because we came immediately now to make from focusing on the business in the driver's seat, developing, and as a team, and all the consequences of this one. What we like to do, how does it go with this blueprint? What means it then? How are you generating? How the deployment works, scalability. But again, the real focus is not the cost of ERP. Is sometimes expensive, say people, but only if you have a company with 100 million, it's still less than 5% of your revenue. And you can win not so much money. But if you can triple, if a company has 10 million, 10% EBITDA, you can make it 30%. Mm-hmm. The tremendous win with AI is in the EBITDA and not in the simple cost of IT. IT was expensive, but it's only 5% and less, maybe 2% sometimes. And we are not talking over the cost of manufacturing. Now, that means from an enterprise, IT is very limited.
Right.
It's crucial. But now we bring but through IT, with AI, we bring the whole enterprise in every worker, every knowledge worker can be 4 or 5 times more productive. And there is the money. And the money is there, the more downstream. But we should do it as a team, because if we do this, what we now do, in this low code, we have no integration with ERP and with these transaction systems. And then you're missing everything.
Right.
You can say it's not important. No, it is crucial. It's the foundation. ERP is the beginning of all of the data. The PLM and the ERP data is the beginning of all.
Right.
But it was too much mainstream. But it's the beginning of the stream. It's coming from the mountain where the water is coming. And let's take then this SQL small river and put that in a semantic data lake.
Right.
And then focus, even processes are over. We go to workflow.
Right.
And this is the new way of thinking, need no longer big processes. Because the workflow can now be synchronized, united together in a consumerized way. All the tools are there.
Right.
We did not have the tools for that. And AI have given, and for me, it's amazing the boost what I see in a positive way, how productive we are now with all my people in the development area. It was amazing what we accomplished in a couple of months now. There in this new, and I will show you there also the new Rappit real element. There's a tremendous breakthrough from this, and I like to go deeper in the way of the deterministic data and the probabilistic way, how to use AI. I will also spend more attention on this one also there.
Right. Well, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great discussion. Every time I hear you speak at one of these conferences and on this podcast, I learn so much from you. So I really appreciate you being here today. And I appreciate you making the journey to the US to be part of our Stratosphere conference here in September. And again, if you'd like to learn more about the conference, you can scan the QR code right here. And you can see the agenda, you can register there, and hope to see you there. It's a great event, and it's good for learning, good for peer networking. It's a lot of fun. So hope to see you there, and really appreciate you being here on the podcast here today, Jan. Just had a great conversation with Jan Baan. I'd love to hear what you think. What do you think of that conversation? Did you like hearing from him? What was the biggest takeaway you had? I'd love to hear from you in the comments there. And after the show, I'll comment. I probably won't during the show just because I'm talking, but would love to hear your feedback here in the chat. Now, I'm going to play you a clip here from another CEO interview I did recently. And if you missed it, it was a really good conversation. I went to Miami to have it. I filmed on site at QAD's office, their headquarters in Miami. Met with the CEO, Sanjay, while I was there. And we had a great conversation talking about some trends in the marketplace, what he's doing with AI at QAD and Red Zone, which is a sister company or a company that QAD owns that also does workforce AI type stuff. And had a great conversation. So I'm going to roll you this clip, and then I'm going to come back and highlight some of the points here. But this is a particularly interesting part of the clip where he talks about culture over technology, meeting customers where they are, and then he also talks about preserving customer secret sauce. So these are three topics that, in particular, I think are really important. That I want to hone in on because I think he says them very eloquently. So let's roll the clip, and we'll come back and chat about it.
I was the CEO of another software company called Software AG. It's a German multinational company doing database and integration application products, roughly about $1 billion in size, 5,000 people, based out of Darmstadt near Frankfurt. And I led that company through a large transformation from kind of sort of an heritage situation to a subscription SaaS company, and led it back to growth. It hadn't grown for 8 years. And prior to that, I was at IBM for about 16 years, mainly focused on manufacturing and industrial companies, helping them implement technology and leverage technology for achieving their ambitions. And from education, I'm an engineer. I started my career in Honda, as a trainee, working on the shop floor assembling engines. So I really learned a lot from the shop floor, and that's, I guess, where my love for manufacturing grew. And why am I at QAD? Well, I think at QAD we have an amazing opportunity. We have a company that has been existing for almost 40 years, serving manufacturers. And I think that there's an opportunity here to take that trust that we have with customers, that manufacturing DNA, deep domain expertise, and combine that with an AI platform to be able to bring these capabilities to clients. So I think that's a truly unique opportunity.
Yeah, it's really interesting what you guys are doing as a company. We'll get into it here in a moment. But we were talking last night at dinner as we were preparing for this discussion. And one thing I mentioned, I mean it as a compliment, is that this does not look like QAD that I recognize from 5, 10, 20, 30 years ago. So that's, I think, a good thing. And you guys are taking it in a really interesting direction that we'll get into here today. But just to sort of set up the conversation here and talk about the manufacturing space in general, what is it about what are manufacturers telling you about what they need and want from ERP modernization here in 2026 that other software vendors and most software vendors are missing, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I've in my early part of joining QAD, I literally spent most of the days on the road, really going and meeting customers. So I think I met over 100 CEOs, and I would say, there are kind of a couple of observations that come out from these conversations. I think the first thing is that AI has kind of really changed the order of investment. If you think 5 years ago, companies were thinking about, hey, first we'll invest in infrastructure, then we'll invest in applications and analytics, and then maybe somewhere we might do something with AI. Today, most of these CEOs are basically saying, hey, I want to skip all of that. I want to go straight to AI. And so, that changes the way we as software companies and, providers have to think differently. So that's kind of one thing. AI has really changed the order of investment. I think the second thing is that, manufacturers don't really have an ERP problem. Nobody's really talking to me about that they've got a fundamental ERP problem. I think, what they really have is a decision-making problem. And so there's no shortage of data in manufacturing. You and I know, we spoke about that last night. So they have dashboards, they have, some of them have AI pilots that are going, but there are very few that have fast decisions, that can make fast decisions. And so I think, this is really about, not so much more data, but it's about the ability to make fast decisions. And so, ERP is not the whole architecture, it's part of that architecture. So that's kind of the second thing that we are getting. And the third thing is that, AI is literally becoming the new user interface. So, it's no longer like screens or transactions or menus. It's pretty much conversations. It's pretty much agents and content or intent. And so, that whole thing, if you say maybe 20 years ago, ERP replaced paper, today AI is replacing clicks. So literally, it's kind of sort of the way of engagement is changing. We're not going to spend time and talking about which is the new application somebody has to learn. I think the real thing is now that you can just simply ask business questions. And that's, I think, fundamental. So I think those are kind of the three things that, I'm picking up from manufacturers. And I think that really makes us as, technology providers really think hard how to bring value to our clients, rather than the traditional, let's go for an ERP implementation or a migration,
Yeah, there's some more deliberate purpose to it. And I think leading into the next question, there's a couple different schools of thought in the industry. You've got the one school of thought that says ERP should, in a perfect world, be standard. It should be one size fits all. It should handle all of your needs. You should be able to roll out one single ERP system to do everything you need it to. And you should be able to apply that same system across different industries, across different competitors within the same industry. And then there's another school of thought that says ERP simply can't be everything to everyone. You might need to customize. You might need best of breed. You might need multiple systems, composable ERP, whatever it is. So two very different schools of thought. Some vendors are pursuing the one size fits all strategy, and you guys are not. So tell me about where you, just in general, aside from Q80 as a company, just in general, how should we be thinking about this notion of an ERP system being one size fits all, one single system?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and I think, our view on that is we don't think manufacturing is a one size fits all. We think manufacturing is quite specific to an organization, to a company, to even to a plant level. So, plants have different characteristics, different ways of operating. Geographies and regions have different, factors that have to be taken into account. So we definitely believe that there has to be flexibility in the ability to really help a manufacturer, serve the business and be able to deliver for the business. And so for that, it's important to support the manufacturers with certain amount of, let's say, unique capabilities that they need. And they build these capabilities mostly on around the templates, around the benchmarks. And so, one way we could think about it is, oh my God, all of that is not good, and therefore we should bring them all back to a core clean setup. The way we look at it is there is a reason and a rationale behind manufacturers building those capabilities. Either they don't exist today or they are their secret sauce. And so we firmly believe that our way to help customers is to go to where they are, help them with that unique differentiation that they have, and make sure that they can continue using that unique differentiation. So we're not, kind of pushing customers into a standard template.
Right. Yeah, and I think that in some ways runs very counter to what a lot of ERP vendors are pursuing in terms of, you mentioned the word clean core, fit to standard, vanilla, especially in today's cloud environment. Software vendors in general are going to scale their products better if we would all just conform to the software. But in manufacturing especially, I would argue it's not realistic. I mean, you mentioned the differentiators and the differences between different manufacturers. Even if you just look at the types of manufacturing, you've got process versus discrete manufacturing, you've got industrial manufacturing versus consumer products, make to order versus make to stock, engineer to order. So all these different variations of manufacturing that it's nearly impossible to have one size fits all. How is that message resonating with manufacturers as far as giving them options? Is that what they're craving? What are you seeing there?
Well, I think most manufacturers are kind of used to hearing the message that, hey, you have to do a lot of disruption to get innovation. And so we really spent time listening to our customers, and we thought about this. If we were to just force our customers to do a migration, that's a lot of disruption to the business. That's a lot of time that needs to be spent for them to be able to get access to the AI capabilities. So for us, the important thing is to meet our customer where they are. So our approach is, it doesn't matter what release you are on customer, whatever older technology you might have. What we give you is Champion AI, our agentic AI capability that can integrate and can work with any level of your platform or your capabilities. So immediately you can get access to agents and you can get access to these use cases that can drive P&L impact. And over a period of time, you can, of course, work on your tech debt. And so it's at a pace that's acceptable to you. And that effectively means that you don't need massive business disruption to avail innovation, to get your hands on innovation. So that's the way we are approaching it.
Yeah, that's really interesting because there's so many times we hear with our clients, whether it's legacy SAP or Oracle or Microsoft clients, for example, that they're using one of the legacy on-prem systems, and they're being told by their vendors and their system integrators, well, we've got all these great capabilities. You just need to migrate your core ERP system to our more modern version. And after you spend millions, tens of millions in years of time and effort, then maybe, just maybe, you'll get access to AI. Whereas you guys are kind of flipping that, saying, well, hold on, if you've got a legacy environment and it's working okay, it may not be perfect, may not be the sexiest thing in the world, you can layer in this orchestration layer of AI to leverage what you've already invested in, right?
Absolutely. And I think, one of the other things that when we listen to our customers, we realize that when we look at our customers that are running our older versions of our ERP itself, part of the challenge for them to move and the disruption is in these unique skills and capabilities that they've built on the side around the ERP. And so these are, as I said, some of them are, differentiation. They are the reasons why they win. They are their secret sauce. And so we built a tool, which is effectively an AI tool that allows them to capitalize and understand all these unique capabilities that they've built. So it can write out the specs of that custom development in English, because these things were built a long time back. So the specs don't even exist. So first of all, they can know what their secret sauce is. And then they can add to it, they can change it, modify it, and have that in a low-code, no-code platform as they're using. But what it means is this tool allows them to continue building their secret sauce, right? And of course, we are looking at the industry and how the industry is moving and what's the greatest innovation that we can bring and how we bring AI to our customers. But there are some unique things about their own operations that they can continue to keep innovating upon. And I think this combination of, the knowledge of across the industry and that local expertise and local domain knowledge, the combination is really powerful. And that helps companies win, actually.
Yeah. So that was a clip from the conversation I had on this podcast, actually, a few weeks ago with Sanjay. I went to Miami to film that episode. And what's interesting about what he talks about, there was three things. One is culture over technology. He talks about how moving from legacy software to a subscription and SaaS model was just as much about culture as it was technology, covering how you build, sell, and serve customers. He also talked about how it demands discipline and execution rather than strategy. So that was really interesting, I thought. And then it's also a rebuttal to any idea that architecture alone shifts power. So Jan, who was on the show earlier, talked about requiring business people who want the wheel, and plenty of organizations do not have them. So kind of an interesting parallel between what Sanjay is saying and what Jan was saying earlier in the show too. Now, there's also a part in that clip I just played for you where he talks about meeting customers where they are. And that's interesting too, because so many software vendors are focused on, our best practices, our functionality, our capabilities, the way we built the software, and you need to come to us. You need to meet us where we are because we've got the answer. We've got the best practices, all that stuff, which, by the way, best practices, I still to this day believe that best practices are a hoax. They don't exist. It's a great selling tool, but it does not exist unless you're talking about something real simple like, GAAP reporting in finance, or, processing a PO. Sure. You probably got some decent capabilities that most companies can adapt. But when it comes to like your deep core of your operations, there are no such thing as best practices. And even if there were, you don't necessarily want to adopt them because the chances are you've got some competitive advantage tied up in your own operations that you want to preserve. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. But what I like about what Sanjay says is that he's meeting customers where they are. And I like that, because I think in this industry, the tech industry has this, what I would consider a condescending way of looking at their customers. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this customer has this old outdated technology. Well, yeah, your customer is running a business you have no idea how to run. So it's easy to judge, I suppose. But Sanjay is doing the opposite. He's, for example, describing delivering AI regardless of which release a customer's on, through agents and an orchestration layer. So productivity gains fund modernization at the customer's own pace without disrupting the business. And that runs totally counter to what a lot of ERP vendors are advocating. It's very similar to what Jan is advocating earlier in the show. And it's remarkably close to what Jan was saying around freeze the core and invest downstream, arriving from an ERP vendor rather than a disruptor. So that's really interesting. And then he also talks about using the conversions as evidence that the architecture argument is winning, even where the commercial incentives point the other way. So I thought those were interesting points. And then he also talked about preserving the customer secret sauce, which I love this topic. I talk about it a lot. It's refreshing to hear others talk about it too, because I don't think it's discussed enough in this industry. So, this is an incumbent saying the same thing that Jan says. And when I say incumbent, I mean QAD. And even though he's coming in with a new vision and new strategy, QAD is an incumbent. They've been around for a long time. They've been around for decades, I think 30 or 35 years. So they've been around a long time. And they're saying the same thing Jan is only an independent platform can do. So Sanjay also explained that the biggest barrier to AI adoption was a customer fear about existing custom extensions, that plants differ by geographies. So one size fits all does not hold. And so QAD built an AI tool to analyze and document those extensions so the capability carries forward, either rewritten on a low-code and no-code platform that works with AI or left in place with AI working around it. So again, there's ways to tackle technology outside the mainstream narrative of what the big incumbents want you to do. When I say mainstream, I just say it's mainstream because it's your big incumbents like SAP, Oracle, and Microsoft that are putting the messaging out there of what you should be doing. And Sanjay and Jan and others are coming in saying, hey, hold on, there's other alternatives out there. You don't have to take this old, outdated, monolithic approach. And so, Sanjay is also relating back to the decoupling point that Jan made earlier in the show. The decoupling point argument arriving from the vendor side. The customer-specific work is where differentiation lives, and it should not be tightened or flattened into the generic core. So, it's a bit ironic, so it's worth saying out loud that Jan dismisses low-code as marginal, while QAD is using AI to move custom logic onto a low-code platform. So it's the same destination, but different verdicts on the tooling. So I thought that was really interesting. That was maybe a difference there between what Jan was saying and what Sanjay was saying. Not totally mutually exclusive, not totally in contradiction, but still very, very different ways of handling that. So really good stuff. Enjoyed hearing from both Sanjay and Jan. I'd love to hear what you think. What do you think about all this stuff we talked about here today? Where is this industry headed? What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? And if you're a software vendor, if you're an incumbent and you've got a different take on this stuff, I'd love to hear from you, whatever that feedback may be. I read all the comments on every episode, and a lot of times I incorporate that thinking into future episodes. So really appreciate in advance any comments you have. So that's what I've got for you here today. Thanks for being here. Be sure to check us out at transformationgroundcontrol.com. New episodes every Wednesday. We'll be back next week. Hope you have a great week. Have a great day. Take care, and we'll see you soon.